Hi, 7th grade. This screencast will focus on reteaching or reviewing narrative writing. The narrative writing that you did was on the Japanese internments of the 1940s, 1943 in the United States. You were given three sources to read and pull experiences from, and you were supposed to have used these experiences in your story. Right? Your story was based on what you read. It was a made up story, but it was supposed to be based on the experiences that you pulled from the reading. There were many of you who did an amazing job, and there were a couple of us that struggle with this. And today we're going to be focusing on reading some of the examples that we wrote and also look at some of the good things or some of the positives and also some of the things we can work on. Again, it was based on three sources on the Japanese internment camps, and your story needed to be based on these sources, right? It could have been a first person or a third person. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later because some of us decided that we were going to go back between first person and third person. Your story needs to be either first person or third person. It cannot be both. So we're going to look at some examples today. I'm also going to go over the outline because some of us struggle with the outline. And you are going to be required to rewrite your story or rewrite another narrative based on different sources. So there's three students that I'm going to focus on. They come from different homerooms, and we're going to see what are some of the positives and what are some of the things that they struggled with. Here's some general observations for what I saw. General observations. Common issue. There were some issues with dialogue and confusing dialogue or little narration. Confusing dialogue means that you have a character talking and then the other character responds and another character responds. You go back and forth. There should be some narration. Narration means the actual storytelling, right? There should be characters speaking in your story, but there should also be some narration, right? Something that is telling the story. Sometimes there was too much narration with little dialogue. Sometimes we decided that we were gonna just tell story and not have any of the characters speak. The way you move the story forward is through using narration, but also using dialogue when appropriate. Illogical details not supported by evidence. Some of us decided that we were gonna talk about cell phones in this time period. This was the 1940s. There was no smartphones then, right? They probably had phones, but they were wired phones. Someone decided that they were gonna talk about the Japanese being pushed into a room with hot lava and wild animals. Now, while that is a creative story, it is not supported by any of the sources. None of the sources talk about how the Japanese were punished this way. Some of us said that the Japanese were going to go to the camps because they were being protected. That's not supported by the sources either. And some of us also wrote the Japanese Americans had to return to Japan. They were forced to return to Japan. The sources were primarily focused on the being sent to the camps. Some of us also said that the camps were in Japan, and that is incorrect. The camps were in the United States. Okay. Some other things. Logical events or hard to follow a sequence. It was pretty hard sometimes to read the stories because I was confused about what was actually happening. If you go to a movie, a good movie, you get an idea of what is the beginning, middle, and end. You get a good idea of how the story moves forward. For some of us, it was just like a lot of words, and it was really confusing to follow. Some of us had a large lack of structure or one large paragraph. I think this is the bigger issue with a number of us because we just kind of start writing without really planning our writing. Some of us had essays that were completely off topic that were not relevant to the sources. And then we had a lack of visualization. Show us, don't tell us. For example, instead of saying he was mad, you can talk about what showed us that he was mad. Maybe his face was red. Maybe he slammed the door. That shows us that someone is upset. You could easily say he's mad, but that lacks creativity. So I'm gonna go over a couple examples. This is gonna take quite a while. Just bear with me. Um, so this is student A. Student A said, and you'll see that spelling is important, especially when it becomes an issue. When you have a lot of misspellings, you will drop from a 2 to a 1. Or if you have a lot of run-on sentences, or if you have lack of commas or lack of capitalization for proper nouns. So from the start, I can see that this person misspelled beautiful, right? This is due to a lack of revising. You have to go back and find those little mistakes that might pop up. It's a beautiful day out, says Juan to himself. There was a knock, so there should be a period there, right? There was a knock, misspelled. There was a knock, his mom says. You see how I'm already really confused by this sentence? Just in this, I'm really confused already. So let me go back. It's a beautiful day out, says Juan to himself. There's a knock, his mom says. So that doesn't make sense. It's a beautiful day, says Juan to himself. There is a knock, his mom says. You see how it's just, that's the problem. His mom apparently said, honey, come, there, honey, come, there should be a comma there. Honey, come, there's someone looking for you. So, okay, so Juan says it's a beautiful day. His mom says there's apparently a knock, and his mom says, come, someone's looking for you. Coming, mom. There should be a period here, maybe. Coming, mom, Juan shouts. Why is there not a period there? He looks out the door and sees a soldier. And they talked, and the soldier said. So here, this person went from says to said, right? So he's going back and forth between past and present. So the soldier said, pack your bags, you are. You are coming with us. So that's what the soldier said. Juan doesn't, misspelled, know what is going on, but he does what the soldier says. So from here, I would have changed something like, first of all, I don't know why this is relevant here. Right? And from here, we already see that this student is already jumping into the conflict. I don't know why the student is jumping into the conflict. Instead, this student could have talked about what Juan does. What is his life like? Who does he live with? Right? Where does he live? Instead of using all this, instead of using quotes or speech or speaking, I'm losing my word. He could have actually talked about, using narration, what life is like for Juan at this moment, right? This student automatically jumped into the conflict when you have to establish who the characters are first. You have to establish a setting, and you have to establish who the characters are. So right now I know Juan and his mom. Okay, he tells his mom, I don't know who he is, I'm guessing it's Juan. He tells his mom, and they're both scared, I'm guessing his person says, but still pack their bags. It should be say their, not their bags, and head out with the dog. And the soldier said, no dogs. And Juan said, see, you can't keep going back to Juan said, he said, they said. It becomes a problem. And Juan said, then why are we coming? Shouldn't that be a question? So here this person did two pieces of dialogue. He says, then why are we coming? We need to hold on to it for now, Juan said. So there's two dialogues here, but why are there two? I'm really confused. Juan said no. Then the soldier put his hand on the taser. There are no tasers back then. This is 1940. And Juan had to corroborate. Or I hope that you're understanding the confusing aspect of this paragraph. It's incredibly confusing. It's just students are just jumping in and writing without really thinking about what they want to say. And there's just a ton of issues with spelling and grammar and punctuation in this paragraph. He tells someone what is going on, and the man says, I don't, who's someone? He tells someone what is going on, and the man says, because of Japan and the US in a war, all people from Japan, it should be capitalized, are having to go to camps. So this person did a good job here pulling from the source. This is the first time I actually see the students pulling from the source. Or I hope you guys understand what I mean by pulling from the source. That means that he or she is he or she is incorporating the source material into their story. I haven't seen that at all in the first paragraph. This is the first time I see it, and it's almost too late. He tells someone what is going on. The man says, because Japan and the USA in a war are in a war, all people from Japan are having to go to camp. 5 p.m. they got there, and a soldier said, there will be rules here. And why is there another quote here? And there will be time to do stuff. Now, I don't understand what that means. Based on the sources, that this is irrelevant. They all spelling all at they all there's a period here that should be capitalized. They all get out, and Juan saw his cousin and said, you guys here too? Shouldn't that be a question? And Junta said, nah, we work here. What do you think? Ha ha ha, very funny. It's actually not very funny at all. If it's his cousin, how is he working there? You see how that's only a logical sentence because it doesn't make sense based on the sources. I still don't know. I think the conflict is that they're at the camp, that they're being pushed at the camp. But there hasn't been like a setup. One soldier said, so this person needs to struggle with the said part. Before, they should be capitalized, the B. Before you enter, we will see what you have in your bags. They checked misspelling. Juan and he passed. And he passed? When he went to the camp, he saw a horrible place, spelling. He went with his mom to check spelling in and got the room next to his cousin's room. When he walked in, but I thought his cousin was just working there. I'm confused by that. When he walked in, he was going to throw spelling up and asked a soldier, why is he going to throw up? If he has something to make his room small a little better. His small room a little better? I don't know what you mean by a little better. And the soldier said, get used to that, the small. Later that day, it was dinner time, and him and his mom went there, and there was so much people they got served, and the food was bad. Again, this story is really, really struggling. I'm just going to be very honest. It's a really, really tough story to read. There's just not a lot of... Yeah, it's really hard to visualize. It's really hard because of the spelling. But this student does attempt to use the sources, but it's inadequate, right? Because he's talking about they went to dinner, and him and his mom went there, so there was a lot of people. So he could have talked about the mess hall. What did it look like? So instead of saying it was small or it was bad, he could have told us what is it that they were serving. So that shows us that he or she is pulling from the sources, right? Watered down soup. Juan saw his mom, and she was pretty bad. She was really sick. What does that mean, that she was pretty bad? Maybe she was she was ill. And Juan lived a good life. Juan lived a good life? How does Juan live a good life? He's in the camp right now. And got to pay his mom medical bills. But when he got locked up, they saw She was getting sick from the cold in the dirty place. So I'm guessing that before he went to the camp, he had a good life. But you never told us that here. That's something that should have been talked to before. Juan got home. Okay, so yeah, that. This paragraph is really confusing. Juan then got so sick of the way they were mistreating Japanese people, he said. So instead of telling us he got so sick of the way they were mistreating them, why don't you talk about what they were doing to them? And then he said, "Who wants to go and strike with me?" I'm guessing that means strike. So you're gonna go on a strike. Now I'm wondering if that's used. Do the sources talk about Japanese Americans going on strike, or Japanese Americans in the camp protesting? Right. If it's not, then it's not a good issue, good thing to talk about. Who wants to go on strike with me? And 40 people came in, and some soldiers saw them and said, "What's going on here? It should be a question." Whenever you do dialogue, the dialogue should start here on the sides, on the left side, because here it gets lost. "We are going on strike," a man tells a soldier. Who's the man? "Do you not remember the rules?" So why isn't there a period here? Because you see how this is two people talking here now. So this is what's going on here. So this is the soldier. That's one person. This is someone. This is Juan, I'm guessing. And then there's a soldier again. Which one was that one? The pink one. Then there's the soldier again. You see how a man told the soldier, "Do you not remember the rules?" The soldier asked and said, "Who is the one who started?" And Juan says, "Me." So you see how there's like really a lot of confusion with going back and forth. So let's see what else we got here. "Do you not remember the rules?" the soldier asked, and then said, "Who is the one who started?" And Juan says, "Me." "And why?" "Me and why?" So this is Juan and that's a soldier. "Because my mom is sick and this is just incorrect." So the soldier punched him in the rib and said, "You're coming with me." He goes inside a tent, and there was the captain and say, "You do not understand the rules." Juan says, "But there is no rules on strikes." There's also no rules on writing about strikes in the sources because the sources don't support it. The captain then said, then that's my bad. Then for the trouble, but don't ever do it again. The captain will never have said that. That's an illogical sentence. Then said, then that's my bad. First of all, they wouldn't talk like that because that's how we talk. They don't talk like that in the 1940s. For the trouble, but don't ever do that again. It was medicine bottle. Juan says thank you and walks out. He went to his room and his mom was sleeping. He told her to wake up and take the medicine. Juan was thinking about the strike and said that that's not fair, that they're in camps but not Germans or Italians. So here this person talks about the Germans or Italians, how they're being treated differently. So he was going to do it again, and which is dangerous move because spelling. If he does, there was going to be some bad stuff coming in for him. He was thinking of going to war, but they would lose because they had guns and come. No, he's not thinking of going to war. That's not a logical sentence. He did the strike again and did everything the same. And this time, when he was the captain said, "I like you because you never give up." Captain will never have said that. And picked up a curtain up. I don't know what that is. Up. And it was his mom dead. Juan was shocked and said, "What did you do? What did I tell you? You took it too far." With crying and yeah. This would be a based on the test. If I use the rubric, this will be for the narrative, like the structure of the narrative. This will be a 1. For the sourcing, will be a 1, and for the out of 4, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 4, and for the spelling, this will probably be a 1 or a 0. I understand what's going on here. For the most part, I kind of follow what's going on, but the structure of it is just so way off. The structure of the narrative, it's really, really hard to follow what's going on. This student does not really use the source material. But it's not even about the sources. It's just the way that the story was written that is really confusing. Okay. Okay, student B. Shmiko was a 16-year-old handsome young man. Okay, so we kind of get the introduction to the story. He wanted to join the army forces, or the army? Just you can say army, to fight for the US, but he didn't have the physical appearance to join the army. Huh, this kind of reminds me of Captain America. So he had to train hard every day and bulk up. Okay, so we get a good idea of who this kid is. He's 16. He's kind of young. He's kind of like small, so he's working out to get big. He was first training with 6-pound dumbbells, but he got stronger. He started to bulk up a lot of muscle. His biceps and triceps were enormous. He was lifting about 100 pounds. Okay, I haven't heard anything about the sourcing yet, besides that there's a war going on, right? There seems to be a war. No, not even. It doesn't even talk about the war yet. So far, there's nothing to do with the sources, which is a problem. Then came the day when he will be sent to test if he was capable to be a Marine or not. But the Army isn't the Army different than the Marines? Maybe. No. At first, he seemed to do well, catching up with others. Shmiko was very shy, so he didn't talk to anyone. Okay, so we kind of get an idea of what's going on here. One thing that I haven't seen here is a lack of, there's a lot of narration. This is what I mean by narration, like the stories being told, right? But there is a lack of people talking or having dialogue. Shmiko was very shy, so he didn't talk to anyone. After the warm-up, they decided to run a half marathon, 13 miles. At this point, he was getting a little tired. Okay, so all of this is really, really kind of off topic right now, based on the source material. After they did the first part of the training, they decided to have lunch. It concluded? I think it was maybe made up of bread, canned sausages, and a lot of boiled potatoes. That's interesting. I think I've seen this before in one of the sources. But that source was talking about the Japanese being in the camps as prisoners. They were excited to be able to have a chance of joining the Marine. While having dinner, Shmiko had managed to make a friend. Her name was Mary. Okay, she grew up in Oklahoma. She was a very nice young lady. Shmiko was greeted with a painful morning. He had to wake up at 6 in the morning and watch each person get tased in the back. What? Where'd that come from? There's no tasers back then. He looked for Marie, but didn't see her anywhere. Then, I guess Marie is another person that wants to become part of the Marines or the Army. Then he looked at the next person in line. Marie. Good luck, she said. Marie chuckles as she's about to go next. Her eyes get a bit teary when the staff was about to tase her. Again, that's not supported. There's a huge problem here. There's nothing that talks about the Japanese. Nothing that talks about Japanese, what they lived like, what their life was like before the internment camps, what the United States government is doing to them and why, and going to the camps. There's nothing here. Then taser sound tingly. She fell to the ground. So I like how this person is like telling the story. I like how this person is using like dialogue. There is some dialogue here now. Before he knew it, Shmiko was next. He tried holding his breath to calm himself. Don't be a baby, you got this. He was whispering. Oh no, sorry. Don't be a baby, you got this. He was whispering under his uniform. He didn't want to get embarrassed in front of Marie, so he took it like a champ. Okay. Although it did hurt, turns out that holding your breath technique works in this favor. For the next 11 weeks, the soon-to-be Marines were working hard, pushing their limitations and going beyond an average human. Then came the day of graduation. Everybody's name had been called except for Marie, Shmiko, and other Marines. John, the general said. Shmiko, or Shinko. I think it's Shinko. Oh, well, there's two different things here. It says Shinko and Shimko. was mad the fact that the general pronounced his name. Oh, he pronounced it incorrectly. Oh, I see what you did here. Incorrectly. But he was furious when the general didn't call Marie's name. Marie was tearing up. Shminko could see it from a mile away. They sort of made a bond during the couple of weeks training together. But secretly, Shminko had a crush on Marie. Marie had a crush on him too, but they were too scared to tell one another. Shminko had the urge to run and hug her, go away. But he was not a Marine. He can't be soft because some girl he liked didn't make it, and he did. At last, World War II America had won the Japanese surrendering. Shminko was named general after the war. Um, think about what you will give this person, right? For narrating, for the story itself is interesting. It's a really interesting story. Um, this person will probably get a 3, just for the structure of the story, the beginning, middle, and end. I didn't really see like a clear conflict here. This maybe a 2 because I didn't really see a clear conflict. For the use of sources and elaboration, this is a 0. There is nothing in this story that really talks about the Japanese Americans and being in the camp and having to live the way they did and being in prisons and homes that look like chicken coops and having to eat what they did or having to use a certain bathroom or losing their farms or having to sell all their stuff. And for punctuation and grammar, this is a 2. So this person got a 4 out of 10. Okay, and because they, they do a decent job telling the story, but there's nothing here about the source. Let's look at source. Let's look at student C. It was a hot Saturday morning at the campsite. Fred was sitting down eating his soggy, undercooked meal that gave him food poisoning every day. Fred snuck out of his work to eat because he woke up too late and didn't eat at all. This is what almost everyone has to go through at this hell of a camp. Fred, no one allow you to have breakfast. Now you know what you need to do, a guard named Jeffrey yelled. He was the deadliest and rudest guard in the camp. So from the start, we see a conflict here, right? Because we understand that the setting is the conflict itself. Being in the camp is the conflict itself, right? We learn about Fred. We learn that he's a prisoner. We learn that he's not allowed to eat breakfast or whenever he wants. Please, I beg you, don't put me in that chamber, Fred cried. You left me no choice, Jeffrey replied. Jeffrey dragged Fred. You left me no choice. So this person's using capital letters to represent like a louder voice. Jeffrey replied. Jeffrey dragged Fred to the chamber that every prisoner was traumatized of. This chamber, known as the torture chamber, contained molten lava to the feet and the deadliest animals from the wild. So this is the problem with this one. The Japanese were put in camps and they were treated subhuman, right? They were put in very small homes, if you can call those homes. They were given very nasty food. The bathroom situation was really bad. They were treated as prisoners. But nowhere in the sources to talk about molten lava and the deadliest animals from the wild. It doesn't. I read the sources. There is nothing that talks about that. The guards made sure that you get torture and punished, but don't die. Jeffrey pushed Fred into the chamber and locked it. Fred screamed so loud that he was getting tortured by a demon in hell. All the pain and screaming caught the attention of all the prisoners. Everyone was worried and scared of the guards and what they are capable of. 10 minutes have gone by and Jeffrey came to check on Fred. Jeffrey opened the chamber only to find out that all of the heat and bites from the animals made Fred pass out onto the molten floor, which gave him a permanent burn in his right arm. So I like the narration. I really do. Right? They're doing a good job with the narrating itself. Jeffrey opened the chamber. Oh, so wait, I saw that. Jeffrey used his burning trident to stab Fred's left leg to wake him up. He has a trident. What is he, Poseidon? Jeffrey opened his eyes and then crawled back, screaming so loudly he was inside the chamber once again. Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me, Fred whispered. It won't if you just get back to work, Jeffrey yelled. Jeffrey is the only. So this person's going back to and forth between past tense and present tense. Jeffrey is the only guard that makes everyone not want to take the opportunity of escaping the camp. Fred got up, limping and crying in pain. He got up and then went to work. It was blazing 115 degrees Fahrenheit and it was lunchtime. The only time when the guards are not in the presence of the prisoners. Fred was enjoying his burnt grilled cheese sandwich until when Jeffrey came along. I don't know if they gave grilled cheese sandwiches. I see you eating your grilled cheese sandwich, Jeffrey said calmly. Yeah, it's pretty good despite the burnt aspect. What are you doing here? Fred asked. I'm on duty today. I'm on duty today. We made new rules that one guard every day comes here and eats lunch, Jeffrey replied. Fred's smile dropped. He hated Jeffrey and now has to be with him every time of his day. Fred knew he and had to escape or he is going to be tortured for the rest of his life. The next day, Fred comes up with a plan. Since he knows Jeffrey's schedule and duties, he is going to go behind Jeffrey and snatch his keys and weapons with his sneaky tactics. I don't know if the source talks about that. He went to work. This person never talked about what the work was. And meanwhile, he kept checking around for Jeffrey but was nowhere. That was perfect. Now it's time to initiate the plan. Fred went to lunch and got melted sticky marshmallows. I don't know if that's supported by the sources. That no one eats. Then after lunch, Fred found a wood stick. There's a lot of narration here. I wish there was more dialogue. Then after lunch, Fred found a wood stick. With those two items, Fred made a rod. At night, Fred woke up and saw Jeffrey on night duty. Fred pulled out his rod and then the sticky marshmallow and stuck on the keys and a handgun. He put back his rod and put the item he collected in his pocket while running back to his cell. Perfect. Step 2. Find a gun, silencer, and then take out all the guards. This is just not logical at all. Like a gun silencer? Fred told himself. I like how they use dialogue though. Fred went to sleep and then woke up to hear Jeffrey panicking. Fred chuckled. At lunchtime, Fred got Jeffrey's keys and opened the weapons lounge. Jeffrey found a pistol silencer and ammo and then ran out. Step 3, take out all the guards, Fred told himself. Again, not logical at all. Fred at night went into the guards' apartment and shot them in both of their arms. Not killing them, but paralyzing them. How do you paralyze someone by shooting them in the arms? The next morning, it was time to escape. But there was one man Fred forgot to paralyze because he was on duty. Jeffrey. Fred knew what he had to do. At night, Fred peeked out his window, staring out the back of Jeffrey's head. John went inside. I'm going to stop reading this one. I'm just confused by the sourcing of this one. They did a decent job with like with the narrating. There's a lot of narrating. I think that's the issue with this one. But the issue with this one is sourcing, right? A sourcing will probably be a 1 because they describe things that are not logical to the source material. And punctuation is a 2. So this person probably got this. I don't remember what this person got, but this person probably got a 3, a 1, and a 2. So like a 6 out of 10. Let's look at student D. When the mail came in the spring morning of 1942, me and my friends' family's lives would change forever. I was just visiting my friend Mookie's house up at Washington, the state, with my family for the week. The official letter from the government caught my eye when taking the mail into the house. I read it and I couldn't believe my eyes. As I was reading, mixed feelings bubbled inside of me. The residents who lived along the west coast of the United States, which included us, were being forced to move in 1 week. So, awesome introduction. We know what the setting is. We know what's going on. One of the things that that I would suggest to this person, it says the residents, right? What residents? It wasn't just any residents, it was Japanese Americans. A week after that, my family, Muki's family, and a lot of other Japanese Americans were all piled into a bus with our small bundles of items from our homes. I watched the scenery as the bus drove off into the middle of nowhere. I opened my bag and tried to find something to do, but there was nothing fun. Everyone on our bus had nothing. All the adults lost their houses, and companies to random people who were happy to take it at no cost. Us children lost practically everything we owned. The only thing I had left were my eating utensils, clothes, and some small toys and blankets. Really, really amazing use of the source material. You see how this person incorporated the material into the story, right? Most of the Japanese Americans came from the West Coast. Most Japanese Americans lost their homes, they lost their farms, incorporated there. Where are we going? My sister Naomi asked me. I love how this person uses dialogue on the left-hand side, but they do it here too. I would suggest they move it to the left. Where are we going? My sister Naomi asked me. I took a deep breath and said, we're going to an internment camp, which is basically a new neighborhood in the middle of nowhere for us Japanese Americans, because the government thinks we did something connected to Pearl Harbor bombing, even though we didn't. Also, again, this person did an amazing job incorporating the source material into their story. I don't want to go. Let's go back home where all the food and my stuffies are. Please. Turn this bus around, Naomi said, with sad and begging eyes. You see how this is like, it's much easier to follow, right? It's much easier to visualize what's going on. These young kids with their parents and other people from that area are on a bus. And right now they're having a conversation about where they're going. And throughout, just in these 3 paragraphs, I know who the people are, I know the setting, and I know what is it they're feeling. I didn't know what to say to her. I couldn't break the news to her that we would be there for 3 whole years from home and that her toys were probably in the dumpster. Now, there's one issue here because how does she know that's already? Right? So that's something to think about. How does she know that they're going to be there 3 years? Because she doesn't know that. They're just no one knows that. They'll know because no one knows how long the war is going to last. Around a few hours later, we arrive at what seemed like a big area with a lot of poorly made rooms, the internment camps. Somebody said that this was Camp Harmony. Awesome use of the source material, right? They're talking about Camp Harmony. A guy directed us to our new house. Our house really had a, our house really had, really, our house, you should say something like this. Our house is really a room that was really small with nothing except a stove and my family's things. The windows had some cracks on it. I looked outside at the almost setting sun. I claimed I think it's this corner. I claimed a corner and put my stuff there. Another bus came distributing cots. Everyone cheered as beds were necessary for us. I put my canvas cot in my corner, put my favorite blanket and my pillow on it, and lay on it. I should say laid on it. Is this our new home? I don't like it. It's stinky. Let's go home, Naomi whined in my face again. So this student does a really good job with the character development because we know Naomi's young and she's immature and she's like, she doesn't want to do this, right? So the student did a really good job introducing this character because through her we are able to see the situation. Yes, we'll be here for a long time. But don't worry, it won't be too bad. I hope. I hope. I hope it won't be too bad. I hope or I hoped. I'm gonna explore this place right now. And also, please stop whining and being annoying, I told her, sitting up. What? Wait, where's my blanket? I need it. What do we even need to be in this prison? Why can't I bring my stuff? I did nothing wrong. I'm only 7. So I think that this is Naomi talking, but it's a little confusing, right? It's fine. Stop crying. So this person needs a little more narration here because they go from dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. You need a little more narration here. It's fine. Stop crying. I don't want you being like this every day. I don't even have my own room to get away from you anymore. Silly government putting us here all because we're Japanese. I have nothing to do with the Pearl Harbor bombing. There are so many innocent people here being held held prisoners, say prisoners, including me, and we all hate it, okay? I yelled, stomping out with an intention to just explore and find Mookie. Hey, I'm so bored. This place is so boring. There's nothing to do, Mookie exclaimed once she saw me approach her room. By that time, I was all calmed down. Yeah, I had to leave all my stuff at home, but at least we have each other. Most other people have no one to hang on out with, I said, but then paused and also added, how about we make something to remind my sister of our real home? I don't want to live here with her whining and crying about missing it. So they're gonna try to do something about her sister. Like what? Plus, there's nothing here. We will be lucky to scrape up few pieces of wood and nails. Don't worry, I know exactly where the wood pile is. This comes from the source, I believe. It's behind the latrine or the bathroom. We better hurry if you want to get some. Other people probably have figured out that there's wood there and took it. Or worst case, the guards patrolling there could have taken it. Okay, let's go there right now and get some. Also, let's hurry and go to the mess hall from the source and get some dinner before they run out of food. I'm as hungry as a lion. Ooh, I like that. We ran to the mess hall closest to us, and it turned out there was still a long line of people. Okay, good. Source material. I realized I forgot my platter and fork, so I went back to my room and got two plates and two forks from my bag. Then I sprinted back out to where my friend was in line and gave her my extra eating utensils. Inside, we got a slice of bread, canned meat, and some unknown mysterious vegetable. Good, this person uses the material again. The food was not that good. I did not want to eat that for the rest of my time at Camp Harmony. That night, I could not sleep because my sister was already homesick. On my cot, I could hear her sad crying just a few feet away of me. Of course, I missed our house in California, but not enough to cry myself to sleep on the first night. The rest of the night, I just tried to sleep, but I couldn't. I stared at the beams of light coming in from the guard towers of the window. Beautiful. I love how this person included the guard towers. The next morning, once we were woken up by the guards, I immediately got up. That was because I was yawning and a lot of that was because I was yawning and a lot and have been awake for hours before the guards came in. That sentence is confusing. Also because the guards were yelling at us to wake up. Ugh, today is going to be so tiring. I hope Naomi calms down during the night. Oh, calm down during the night. I hope she doesn't whimper for the whole night tonight and make my heart twist of sadness so I can't sleep again. Around mid-afternoon, I met up with Mookie behind the latrine and quickly gathered as much wood as we needed, which is about a piece or two. Now my friend and I weren't very good carpenters, but my friend's dad was, and he had just what he needed. Nails, strong, sharp pieces of wood to cut and attach our wood together. All afternoon, I spent my time at Mookie's room, instructing her dad what our building would look like and how to build it. We are planning on building this couch that my sister really liked, I said, trying to draw it on the bare and dry dirt with a stick. Awesome, because that's what it was, right? It was exposed dirt for the rooms. Yes, and we need to finish it today. This couch is very important, Mookie said. Finally, after an hour, the base of the couch was done. The couch only needed a pillow, which we didn't have, but luckily my mom did. Mom, this story is really long. I'll finish it. I don't care. My mom did. The expert packer who managed to pack extra pillows, utensils, and clothes in her baggage for us. Her mom is really good at packing. She let me have one of her pillows and blankets after I explained to her Mookie and I were building a couch for my sister so that we all could have nights of peaceful slumber without my sister's loud crying. Mookie, her dad, my mom, and I sneakily took the wooden couch and put it in our room quickly before my dad and Naomi came back from dinner. We put the pillow and the blanket on it, and it looked great. We can live in style and peace now. Naomi arrived at our room with my dad, so we opened the door and surprised her, and yelled surprise. Startled, they looked at us and saw our glorious handmade couch. My sister's face lifted as she ran towards us and jumped on the baby blue pillow part of the couch, bouncing and observing it very approvingly. My heart was beating as I was scared she didn't like it, but her smile changed my mind. I imagined what she was thinking at the moment. That it was so soft and I was the best sister ever. Whoa, what is this? It's just the comfiest sleeping in my cotton candy. That's cotton candy, and it's just like the one from home. that I used to sit on. Wait, is this for me? She said in response to our couch. Yes, your sister and yes, yes, your sister and made it for you. So I'm confused by that. Remember our home and feel like it's our home. Even though you don't have every physical item from our old home, you have us and this wonderful couch as a reminder. You also have us, replied my mom. Well, I don't know. A couch won't really automatically make me happy, but I guess I'm not that homesick now. I have you guys. You guys are my home, Naomi said. That night, Naomi slept on the couch. I made peacefully without any worries. I slept on the canvas cot peacefully too, and it was at that time I realized, even after my mom talking, that I was glad I still had my family. Even though I didn't have everything, people were the only what mattered the most. This is a great story. I mean, it's not perfect, right? But it's a great story because this person, I'm able to see like the beginning, middle, and end. The resolution is that they're happy that they're still in the camp. They don't get to escape. It's just a story that takes place in the camp. A lot of us made, a lot of us wrote stories about people trying to escape, but none of that is supported by the sources, right? I don't think any one of the sources talked about escaping, killing the guards. They just talked about their experiences there, and that's why I picked this story because it shows the experiences of the camp. Right? It could be better, but it's a pretty good story. This is a four. For the source material, it's either a three or a four, and for the grammar is a two. So this story is either a nine or a 10. Okay. Um. Okay. So I'm gonna share with you guys. This is um. This is the the outline, part of the outline that you used to write your story. And I feel like for some of us, we didn't really outline, and that was the issue. That we just kind of jumped into the story and we kind of created a story as we went, and that doesn't work. You have to develop your story before you actually write your story. You have to outline your story, and in order to outline your story, you have to get experiences from the sources. For example, here for this story, this person probably pulled experiences of what it was like before they were taken to the camp. They pulled experiences from the letters that they received. They pulled experiences for the food that they ate. They pulled experiences for the what the home looked like. Okay, um, so you have to pull experiences. That's evidence, right? You pulled evidence, and so somebody, right? Somebody that's the sister. Wanted, bought, so then. So this is the introduction, setting, and characters. This is the conflict or the problem. What happens as a result of the conflict and problem, and then we have the resolution. Okay. Same thing here, right? I feel like a lot of us did not spend enough time developing the setting, and I think that this student could have spent more time developing the setting too. They do a decent job. They do a decent job here, but I think it could have been more developed, like the setting. Beginning of the story where characters and settings are introduced. When you read a book, when you read a fiction book, the first page doesn't really talk about what the big problem is. It talks about the characters, it talks about their life, it talks about their friends, their family members. And introduces the setting, introduces the what the story is going to be about. The problem doesn't arise late until later. Same thing with a movie. When you go into a movie, yeah, some movies decide that the first scene is going to be the big problem, but for the most part, you kind of develop the story towards the conflict. So we have the beginning as the exposition, which is where the story begins. The characters are introduced and the setting is introduced. Right here, we're going to have the conflict. Right, the conflict and what happens as a result of the conflict. Right, the conflict in the story that I just read was that they're in a camp and the little girl's having a really hard time adapting to their environment. The little girl's crying every night, right? And what does the girl do to solve that problem? The sister, right? The climax is the making of the um, of the couch, and when the little girl sees it, and then we have it goes towards the conclusion. The most exciting part of the story is the climax, the events leading to the resolution is the fight in action. Then we have the resolution. The resolution to this story is it's kind of happy ending, but not quite, right? Because they're still stuck in the camp, but at least the little girl's a little happier because she has this couch that she feels good about, and she can sleep, and she feels a sense of being at home. Um, so the biggest thing that I'm going to be focusing on is being able to actually develop an outline that is clear. There's something here that I want you to focus on. So we have two practices here. Okay. I'm going to do the first practice on Edpuzzle. The second practice, you'll do that one. And I want you to incorporate the ideas or what we focus on in this video and also in class. So practice one, a student is writing a narrative for the literary magazine about two friends and a hot day. Read the draft of the introduction and complete the task that follows. A hot day. Joe, so Joe is one of the characters, lounged outside under a tree. The only area having a significant amount of shade. So it's a hot day. He looks like he's sitting under a tree that's providing some shade. It was only 9 a.m., but the temperature had already passed the 80-degree mark and was rising rapidly, so it's getting hotter. Weather forecasters on the news program had predicted that the heat wave could continue throughout the next couple of days, so it's getting really hot. They had even provided safety precautions to take during times of high temperatures. Listeners had been advised to exercise only in the early morning hours and the late evening hours. They had also been instructed to drink large quantities of water to stay hydrated. Joe was still debating what activity he wanted to do with his friend when his friend George arrived. Write the dialogue that might have happened or occurred when George walked up to Joe. So on Edpuzzle, I'm gonna give you an example of how I would do the dialogue. Okay, there will be little narration because it does talk about dialogue. Okay. Practice number two. This one's the one you're gonna do on your own. Okay. Last summer, my friend Tony and I decided to enter the annual sand sculpture contest on the beach at the local lake. So it looks like they're gonna make some statues, or like not some statues, some sand castles or sculptures. First prize was $100 plus free tickets to the biggest amusement park in the state. The theme for the competition was city images. So we decided to build a miniature version of the new sports stadium. The actual stadium was only half built so far, but we had taken a picture at the mall of a small-scale model of the planned stadium. At the contest, we felt lucky to get the spot closest to the water because we would have an easier time keeping our sand wet as we created our sculpture. I built the main part of the stadium first, and Tony refined my work, so he made it better. He added details, adding details that would make the stadium easier to recognize. We were putting the finishing touches on our sculpture when a speedboat zoomed by at top speed. The water from the boat caused huge waves to wash up along the shore and flood our stadium sculpture. When the waves drew back, half of our sculpture was gone. Now it looked like the half-built stadium in the distance. We were crushed by disappointment. Write an ending to the narrative that follows logically from the events or experiences in the narrative. So here you're going to write an ending to the story. Now, you should use dialogue, but you are also going to use narration. Again, dialogue is these boys talking to each other. Tony and who's the other boy? Tony and the main character, right? Because it says last summer my friend Tony and I, so it's two people. Okay, so you are going to use narration, but you're also going to use dialogue, and it needs to be in a way that is not confusing. Don't say he said, then say I said, then he said, then I said, and you can't do that. You can't go back and forth like that. Okay, I know this video is really long and we focus on a lot of this. For those students that got an S, an S minus, or an N, you are going to be writing another narrative and that's going to replace your grade in Power School for your narrative grade. If you have any questions, please let me know.